You've been lied to your entire life about saving money. Every financial expert, every parent, every teacher, they all told you the same thing. Save your money, build an emergency fund, keep it somewhere safe, watch it grow. And you did it. You cut back, you skipped the coffee, you brought lunch from home. You said no to trips, you watched that number in your savings account slowly climb. 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. You felt responsible, disciplined, like you were finally doing money right. And somehow, you're broker now than when you started. My name is Sam, and today I'm showing you why saving money in 2026 is the fastest way to guarantee you stay poor. Not because saving is bad, but because the game changed and nobody told you. The rules that worked for your parents don't just fail now. They actively destroy your wealth while making you feel like you're being responsible. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 4 mechanisms quietly draining your savings faster than you can add to it, and why the solution isn't saving harder. It's playing a completely different game. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but somehow falling further behind, if your savings account grows but your financial stress doesn't decrease, if you're tired of being punished for being responsible, stay with me. Subscribe if you want the truth about money in 2026 instead of advice from 1985. Drop a like if this already feels different from what everyone else is telling you. Let's start with the first mechanism destroying your savings without you realizing it. Pillar 1. Shadow inflation. You've heard the official numbers. Inflation is 3.2%, maybe 3.8% depending on the month. The Federal Reserve says it's under control. The news says prices are stabilizing. Your employer uses these numbers to justify a 3% raise and tells you you're keeping up. You're not. The official inflation number is a statistical fiction designed to make the economy look healthier than it is, and your savings account is getting destroyed by the gap between that fiction and reality. Here's how it works. The Consumer Price Index, the number they use to calculate inflation, is based on a basket of goods. But that basket is carefully selected and constantly adjusted to minimize the reported number. When beef gets too expensive, they swap it out for chicken. When chicken gets too expensive, they adjust the weighting. They call it substitution. I call it statistical manipulation. The CPI also excludes or minimizes categories where prices are exploding. Healthcare costs rising 12%? The CPI weights healthcare at 8.7% of the basket. Housing costs up 15% in your city. The CPI uses something called owner's equivalent rent, which lags real prices by years. Food quality declining, so you're paying the same price for worse products, not measured. Shrinkflation, where your cereal box is now 14 ounces instead of 16 for the same price, not fully captured. Let me show you what I mean with real numbers. Pattern interrupt, show graph. Official CPI inflation 3.2%, real costs experienced by middle-class households. Healthcare premiums, up 7.2% annually on average over the last 5 years. Your deductible, up even more. Average deductible in 2026 is now over $6,000. 5 years ago, it was $3,800. Homeowners insurance, up 11.3% just last year. Some states seeing 20 to 30% increases. Car insurance, up 14% nationally. Some demographics seeing even higher. Groceries, official number says 2.1%, but anyone actually buying food knows that's fiction. Meat up 8 to 12% depending on cut. Eggs fluctuating wildly, but averaging 30 to 50% higher than 2 years ago. Quality produce up 6 to 9%. Childcare, up 5.4% officially, but median annual cost now exceeds $15,000 for infant care. In many cities, it exceeds $25,000. Car repairs, up 7.8%. Parts shortages and increased complexity of modern vehicles making every repair more expensive. Veterinary care, up 10.2% because your dog doesn't care about inflation. Add these up based on actual middle-class spending patterns, and real inflation is running somewhere between 7 and 10%, not the 3.2% your employer uses to justify your raise. Pattern interrupt. Show calculation. 3% raise minus 8% real inflation equals negative 5% purchasing power annually. Your savings account earning 4.5% looks good on paper, but it's losing 4 to 5% of purchasing power every single year. You're saving money, your account balance is growing, and you're getting poorer because the value of each dollar you save is eroding faster than you can add new dollars. You're running on a treadmill that's speeding up while you're slowing down. This is shadow inflation, the gap between what they tell you prices are doing and what prices are actually doing in your life. And it's the first mechanism destroying savers in 2026. But it gets worse, because there's a second drain on your savings that didn't exist 10 years ago at this scale. Pillar 2, the subscription trap. Everything in 2026 is a monthly fee. And I mean everything. Your software, your entertainment, your car features, your home security, your fitness, your productivity tools, your music, your cloud storage, your news, your professional development. Each one individually seems reasonable. $7 here, $12 there, $19.99 for the premium tier. But they add up to something insidious. Permanent leaks in your bank account that you can't plug because you've built your life around them. Let me show you what this actually looks like for a typical middle-class household in 2026. Pattern interrupt, show list appearing item by item. Streaming services. Let's be conservative. Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, maybe HBO Max. That's $55 to $70 a month depending on tiers. Music streaming. Spotify or Apple Music, $11 to $15. Cloud storage, iCloud or Google One or Dropbox, $3 to $15 depending on family plan. Productivity software, Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, $7 to $20. Adobe Creative Cloud if you do any creative work, $55. Fitness app or Peloton subscription, $13 to $44. Meal kit service or grocery delivery subscription for free shipping, $15 to $60. Amazon Prime, $15 a month. Professional subscriptions, LinkedIn Premium, industry publications, continuing education platforms, $30 to $100. Home security monitoring, $20 to $60. Phone insurance, $7 to $15 per line. Car features that used to come standard, heated seats, remote start, premium audio, $5 to $25 a month in some new vehicles. New subscriptions if you want quality journalism, $10 to $20. Gaming subscriptions, Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, $15 to $18. We're at $300 to $500 a month in subscriptions. That's $3,600 to $6,000 a year. Every year. Forever. And here's what makes this a trap. These aren't one-time purchases you decide to make. They're ongoing decisions you never revisit. You signed up for that fitness app 2 years ago. You used it for 3 months. But it's still charging you $13 a month. You barely notice. It's automatic. That's $7,800 over 5 years for an app you stopped using after 90 days. You got Adobe Creative Cloud for one project. The project ended. The subscription didn't. That's $3,300 over 5 years for software sitting unused on your computer. Every subscription is a permanent leak, small enough that you don't notice the individual charge, large enough that collectively they're draining thousands annually. Pattern interrupt, show visual of bank account with multiple small arrows draining out continuously labeled with subscription names. And the companies designing these systems know exactly what they're doing. They make signing up easy, one click. Free trial converts automatically. They make canceling hard, buried in settings, multiple confirmation screens. Some require phone calls. They're counting on inertia, on you forgetting, on the pain of canceling exceeding the pain of paying. And it works. The average American has 12 ongoing subscriptions. Most can only name 7 when asked. They're paying for 5 services they forgot exist. This is the second mechanism destroying your savings. Not big dramatic purchases, small permanent leaks that compound over years. But even if you plugged every subscription, you'd still be losing because the foundation you're building on is structurally unsound. Pillar 3. The savings account myth. Every piece of financial advice you've ever received starts the same way. Build an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses. Keep it somewhere safe. A high-yield savings account. You did it. You built the fund. It's sitting in an account earning 4.5% interest. You feel secure, responsible. You follow the rules. And that security is costing you thousands of dollars a year in lost purchasing power. Here's the math nobody explains. Your savings account earning 4.5% sounds good until you factor in what we covered in Pillar 1. Shadow inflation running at 7 to 10%. Pattern interrupt. Show math on screen. 4.5% interest minus 8% real inflation equals negative 3.5% real return. Your $10,000 emergency fund is losing $350 a year in purchasing power, not in nominal terms. It still says $10,000. But what those $10,000 can buy is shrinking by $350 annually. Over 5 years, that's $1,750 of purchasing power evaporated. Your account balance didn't change. But your $10,000 now buys what $8,250 bought when you started saving. You saved money, you did everything right, and you're 13% poorer in real terms. This is the savings account myth. The idea that keeping money somewhere safe is actually safe. It's not. It's a guaranteed loss of purchasing power in an environment where real inflation exceeds nominal interest rates. But it gets even worse when you factor in taxes. That 4.5% interest is taxable as ordinary income. If you're in the 22% federal bracket plus state taxes, you're keeping maybe 3.4% after tax. Pattern interrupt. Show updated math. 3.4% after-tax return minus 8% inflation equals negative 4.6% real return. Your savings account isn't treading water, it's sinking. And the more you save, the more purchasing power you lose. This is what financial advisors don't tell you when they say build an emergency fund. Yes, you need liquidity for emergencies. But treating savings accounts as wealth building is financial suicide in 2026. Your parents' advice to save money made sense when savings accounts paid 5 to 8% and inflation ran 2 to 3%. Real returns were positive. Savings actually grew in purchasing power. That world doesn't exist anymore, and following advice designed for that world is destroying you financially. So if saving doesn't work, what does? This is where everything shifts, because the solution isn't saving harder. It's understanding that saving is just one tool in a much larger system. And in 2026, it's the wrong tool for building wealth. Pillar 4, the solution, from saving to strategic allocation. Here's what actually works in 2026. Stop thinking about saving money. Start thinking about allocating capital. They sound similar, they're completely different. Saving is passive. Put money somewhere safe and hope it grows. Allocating is active. Put money where it has the highest probability of outpacing real inflation. Let me show you what this means in practice. You still need emergency liquidity, but instead of 6 months in a savings account losing purchasing power, you need 3 months maximum. That's your true emergency fund. Everything beyond that needs to work harder. Pattern interrupt. Show 3-tier allocation structure visually. Tier 1, immediate liquidity. 1 to 3 months of expenses in high-yield savings. Yes, it loses to inflation, but it's insurance, not investment. You're paying for immediate access when genuine emergencies hit. Tier 2, short-term accessible growth, 3 to 12 months of expenses in something earning above inflation. Short-term treasury funds, I-bonds if you can handle the 1-year lockup. Even conservative dividend funds with some volatility. Goal isn't maximum return. Goal is beating inflation while maintaining reasonable access. Tier 3, everything else, long-term wealth building. This is where real returns happen. Stock index funds, real estate if you have capital and knowledge, skills that increase earning power, side businesses, assets that appreciate faster than inflation. This is the shift from saving to strategic allocation. You're not stuffing money in a mattress or a savings account hoping it grows. You're deliberately placing capital based on time horizon and return requirements. But here's the piece almost everyone misses. The highest return allocation isn't financial at all. It's investing in yourself. Let me show you the math. If you have $5,000, you could save it, lose $350 a year to real inflation. In 10 years, have $5,000 worth $4,400 in today's purchasing power. Or you could invest it in learning a high-income skill. Web development, sales, digital marketing, video editing, copywriting, whatever aligns with your aptitudes. That skill, deployed correctly, could increase your income by $10,000 to $30,000 annually. In 10 years, that's $100,000 to $300,000 of additional lifetime earnings. $5,000 in savings becomes $4,400 in purchasing power. $5,000 in skills becomes $100,000 plus in earnings. Which one is the better allocation? Pattern interrupt. Show comparison graphic. $5,000 in savings account versus $5,000 in skill development. 10-year outcome comparison. This is what wealthy people understand that broke people doing everything right don't. Savings accounts are for emergencies. Wealth comes from assets and income growth. Every dollar you have beyond true emergency needs should be allocated to something with expected returns above real inflation. If it's not beating 7 to 8% annually, it's losing value. That might be index funds with historical returns of 9 to 10%. That might be real estate in growing markets. That might be skills that increase your hourly value. That might be a side business that generates cash flow. But it should never be sitting in a savings account feeling safe while quietly losing purchasing power year after year. And here's the thing about income growth through skills. It compounds differently than investment returns. If you invest in learning to code and land a job paying $30,000 more annually, that increase likely comes with annual raises. Your base just jumped permanently. 5 years later, you're not just $30,000 ahead. You're on a completely different earnings trajectory, making 90 instead of 60, which means more to invest, which means faster wealth building, which means earlier financial independence. Meanwhile, the person who saved that $5,000 is still earning 60% and still watching their savings lose purchasing power to inflation. This is the solution, not saving harder. Strategic allocation of every dollar based on real returns and time horizon. Emergency liquidity, yes, 3 months maximum. Everything else gets allocated to growth that beats real inflation. Financial assets, income-generating skills, businesses, real estate, things that compound faster than prices rise. Let me bring this full circle because I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds risky. This sounds like gambling. Savings accounts feel safe. They're not safe. They're guaranteed losses in real terms. The safety is an illusion created by nominal stability. Your balance doesn't drop, but what it buys does. And risk isn't eliminated by saving, it's just transformed. The risk of losing money in investments becomes the risk of losing purchasing power in savings. You're taking a risk either way. The question is which risk has better odds. And in 2026, with shadow inflation running 7 to 10% and savings accounts paying 4 to 5%, the math is clear. Staying in cash is the higher risk position. Here's what this looks like put together. Shadow inflation is stealing 7 to 10% of your purchasing power annually. Subscriptions are bleeding hundreds monthly in permanent leaks you barely notice. Your savings account earning 4 to 5% is losing 3 to 5% in real terms. Every dollar you're saving the traditional way is actively making you poorer. The solution is strategic allocation, minimum emergency liquidity in savings. Everything else in assets or skills that beat real inflation. Stop saving, start allocating. I've watched this play out with people I know. The ones who stayed in cash, built big savings accounts, felt responsible, fell further behind year after year. The ones who allocated strategically, kept minimal emergency funds, invested everything else in growth assets and income skills, built real wealth. Same starting point, same income, completely different outcomes 10 years later. Because one group was playing the game they were told to play. The other group realized the game changed and adapted. The world your parents built wealth in doesn't exist. Interest rates that beat inflation, pensions that funded retirement, houses that cost 3 times income, jobs that lasted 30 years, that's gone. And the advice designed for that world is destroying people who follow it faithfully in 2026. You can keep doing what you're told. Keep saving in accounts that lose purchasing power. Keep feeling responsible while getting quietly poorer. Keep wondering why you can't get ahead despite doing everything right. Or you can recognize that the game changed. That saving isn't wealth building anymore. That strategic allocation of capital to inflation-beating assets and income-generating skills is the only path forward. Your choice. But the clock is running. And every month you stay in cash is another month of purchasing power you'll never recover. If you felt this, if this explained the squeeze you've been feeling, drop a comment with the word trap. I want to know how many of you are realizing you've been caught in this system. Subscribe if you want more truth about money in 2026 instead of recycled advice from your parents' economy. I break down the systems that keep people stuck and the actual mechanics of building wealth when the rules changed. Next video drops in 3 days. It's about why your salary is the worst way to build wealth and what to do about it. You're not going to want to